Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today, I respectfully ask that the Assembly adjourn in the memory of Mr. Los Angeles and my friend, Councilmember Tom LaBonge. Tom LaBonge was born in Los Angeles and grew up in Silver Lake. He graduated from Marshall High School and Cal State, LA. His dedication to community service in the city that he loved started early. In 1974, he served on Mayor Tom Bradley's Youth Council. 2 years later, he began his career as a staff member for the LA City Council, first with Councilmember Peggy Stevenson, followed by a 15-year stint with Councilmember John Ferraro. Of course, most of us know him from his own time on the council. From 2001 to 2015, Tom represented the 4th District. Regarded by his peers as a force of nature, he was also the city's biggest cheerleader. And I will tell you, for someone who was so often in the spotlight as Tom LaBonge was, he always unfailingly used that spotlight to shine on other people around him. He was never alone on a stage. Tom LaBonge would always be so excited to have a minute to introduce community members, pull people up on stage with him, never talk about what he was doing, but always talk about what everyone else was doing. And I remember when I was first elected to the Glendale City Council in 2009, other city council members in Los Angeles really, they didn't have much interest in council members from the small cities around them. You know, when you were in LA, that was their town. But Tom LaBonge, whenever he would see me in Griffith Park or anywhere else, would shout out, "There's Councilmember Laura Friedman," and he would pull me up on that stage with him like I was the mayor of Los Angeles. And I learned this great lesson from him about humility and about sharing that spotlight and about supporting other people. It's something that I carry to this day, and I would, whenever I saw Tom LaBonge, like everyone else, I couldn't help but smile. That's who he was. He was someone who brought joy. He was also the city of Los Angeles' biggest cheerleader. And this was someone who knew every landmark, the history of his city, like he knew himself. He would always tell you some long story about a tree or a building or an artifact, and it was something he really, really, really enjoyed. Now, one of his most significant contributions was his expansion of Griffith Park by 500 acres. His love for the park knew no bounds. He was all over that park every day with daily hikes, leading people around. He knew all the trails, and in fact, after he had retired, I went on a hike with Ben Allen and some of our constituents, and there was Tom LaBonge. And in fact, everywhere I would go, Tom LaBonge would show up. It was sort of a joke with our staff, like, "Where's Tom LaBonge?" "Oh, there he is." And it wasn't that he was stalking me. It was that he loved his city so much that he couldn't stay home. He was always all over the 4th District, picking up trash, delivering muffins, talking to people, showing anyone who would listen about the city. He would just stand there, and if you were there, he would say, "Hey, come on over here. Let me show you this. Let me show you that." Well, 2 weeks ago, he was honored by the Mount Hollywood Summit in Griffith Park, which has incredible views, was renamed by the city Tom LaBonge Summit. And I know that Tom is looking down from heaven and smiling at that, to be that part of history and having that memorialized. Tom is survived by his wife of 41 years, Bridget, his daughter, Mary Kate LaBonge, and son, Charles LaBonge, both of Los Angeles, as well as by his brothers, Brian LaBonge of Glendale, Dennis LaBonge of Newport Beach, Robert LaBonge of Malibu, Timothy LaBonge of Desert Hot Springs, and Mark LaBonge of Los Angeles. He was someone who was unstoppable. He had a heart of gold. He really was and still is Mr. Los Angeles, and believe me, I will miss him dearly, but never, never forget him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.